Welcome back. This is actually our last class session. Sadly, you can shed a few tears, but this is the last time we'll be together, but for right now, for this class, it is. So it's been an interesting year of putting all the pieces together, and I know that in my conversations that I've had over the last couple of years with some of the folks in the Honors College, they talk about how they sort of wish they had something like 3160. For you, it might be sort of, this has been interesting or been useful or helpful. Hopefully it's been very helpful, because one of the conversations that we have is that in many cases, and those of you that are kind of doing a dual honors project may know this, that some people go into doing the honors project and really just don't know what they're supposed to be doing because they haven't had really any orientation to how we go about collecting data and writing and what a research paper writes and that kind of stuff. And so that's what we try to do in this class, and we actually have been having some conversations about would it be possible at some point that maybe everybody goes through this kind of an experience that's going to be doing some kind of an honors project, because otherwise, like, sort of how would you know what you're supposed to do? So in the process of going through this year, we've tried to look at all the different pieces in terms of the type of things that you how you do the research, what kinds of research are out there, and kind of setting the table for the work that you'll do next year. And this is kind of the last part of that, kind of an opportunity for us to touch base, look at kind of a few of the finer points, and make sure that all of your questions are out. So we do have some advisors with us today, and if each of you could introduce yourselves and tell us who you are and where you're from and who you're working with, that would be great. Dr. Thomas, you want to?
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Angela Thomas, and I'm an associate professor in the College of Education and Human Development, and I am blessed to work with Mackenzie and Katie and Maddie on their projects.
All right, great, thank you, welcome.
I'm Dari Filipova, and many of you know me. You've had my calculus classes or modern geometry class or whatever. So I'm glad to be here, and I have been leading several students lately. I'm happy to come with them.
Thank you.
I'm Ina Terry. I'm over in the geology department. My student is Alexandria over there. So it's the first time I've been here. It's the first student I've had in this program. Not the first honor student I've had, but this is the first student I've had in this program, so I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic, great. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it very much. So as we go through, this is a throwback picture. This is actually when we did this last session in January of last year for the 3160 class. We were over in England, and so I think you presented that day, and then we Skyped in, right?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. I think when you finished, we came in electronically, so we did the meeting a little bit differently. So a shot of the group in England at this time last year. It was almost exactly the same day. So our agenda today is to talk a little bit about the, we're going to need to change that slide, right? So mine's out of date.
Pretty soon. Yes,
Pretty
yes.
soon. So we'll talk about that in a second. Dr. Snyder is going to be presenting to you in a few minutes about this whole process of a review board and why that's necessary and how that works. You and I will talk a little bit about your paper requirements and what you're going to be doing this spring as we talk a little bit about kind of where you are and any questions out that you might have, and just sort of the timing for what we're going to do in the spring semester. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Snyder. Take me a second just to flip PowerPoints here. One of the important pieces of research projects is getting permission in some cases to be able to do those projects. And you and I have actually talked about that a few times this year. A lot of our projects that we do in this program don't necessarily need permission, and we'll talk about that tonight too. But in the past there have been some that do. The bottom line is you can't just go off from a university campus and do research in any setting that you want to and do anything you want without getting somebody's approval. And so what does that look like? Who needs approval? How does that work, etc.? And we're going to turn that over to the head of that office who can really help us to make sense of it. And the initials of the office and the name of the committee and so forth are actually in the process of changing. So Dr. Snyder will talk to you a little bit about that too. So would you please give her a hand, and I'll...
So, I am in the Office of Research Compliance. My office administers several different committees, one of which is the, as it has been called, Human Subjects Review Board, or HSRB, that reviews research with human subjects. probably 99.8% of all other institutions call it an institutional review board, IRB. So we're going through the transition of renaming that committee just to conform with what everyone else is doing. So I've updated my slides from HSRB to IRB, except this one. So you'll probably be hearing HSRB on campus for a little bit longer until everybody gets the hang of it. We should be sending out an official notification about the name change probably beginning of February. Alright, so I want to tell you a little bit about what the IRB is, why we have one, and the types of research that they review, so that if you get to that point, you'll know if you need to go through the process. So the IRB is a group of faculty, staff, sometimes a graduate student, and community members that are all appointed by the university's institutional official, who is Dr. Mike Ogawa, the Vice President for Research and Economic Engagement. The IRB is just charged with protecting the rights and welfare of human subjects in research projects. The IRB doesn't make this stuff up. It's all detailed in the federal regulations. The regulations say what the composition of the committee has to be. For example, we have to have a certain number of members. We're required to have at least one community member. We're required to have at least one non-scientist. In addition to that, the regulations say how records have to be kept, how informed consent from subjects must be documented. So it's all there, and the board is just trying to weigh the benefits of your project against any potential risks to subjects, and making sure it complies with what the regulations say. So the IRB conducts initial reviews of new project submissions from researchers wanting to use human subjects. They can only approve a project for a maximum of 12 months. So if researchers want to continue with their project longer than 12 months, they go through a continuing review process. If a researcher wants to make any changes to an approved project, changing information in the consent document, adding members to their research team, changing questions in a survey, it all has to be approved before the researcher can do that. And then if there's any complaints or concerns from research participants, the IRB will follow up on that. Or if there's suspected violations of the regulations, such as protocol non-compliance, not following your approved protocol, the IRB will follow up on that as well. So if you were to take full training on research with human subjects, you would learn a lot about the history of why we have the regulations that we do today. But I'm just going to share one historical example with you. From 1932 to 1972, the United States Public Health Service studied untreated syphilis in African American men. They wanted to be able to trace how syphilis progressed over time. They offered participants free medical exams, free meals, and free burial insurance. This was a poor rural population, so these were great incentives for them. I think it was 399 African American men with syphilis and 201 men without syphilis were enrolled into this study. They were not given informed consent. So they were not told the purpose of the study, the benefits of the study, any risks of participation. They were never told that they had syphilis. They were just told that they had bad blood, which at the time meant a lot of different things. It could be anemia, it could be, you just were sick, it could be syphilis. It was just kind of a generic term. In 1940, doctors found out that penicillin could be used to treat syphilis. In 1947, it was just common practice to treat people who had syphilis with penicillin. But still, these doctors did not tell participants that they had syphilis, they did not treat them, and they actually went to great lengths to make sure these men did not receive medical treatment for syphilis. So as you can imagine, this study going on for 40 years, untreated syphilis, many participants died and their families were impacted by this as well. So when the general public found out about this, they were outraged, and it resulted in the drafting of the Belmont Report. There's 3 principles in the Belmont Report, and that's what our current federal regulations are based off of. So the 3 principles are respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Respect for persons is your idea of informed consent, that anyone who is interested in being in a research study has to be told the purpose, benefits, risks, what they're being asked to do, how long it'll take, make it really obvious that participation is voluntary, they can withdraw from the study at any time, etc., etc. So the concept of voluntary participation and informed voluntary participation. Beneficence is the idea that benefits have to be maximized and risks have to be minimized. So benefits can be direct benefits to participants. They can also be benefits to your field of study, so advancing knowledge. And then risks, you probably think about like physical risk, but risk is also emotional risk, maybe financial risk, social risk, lots of types of risk. The IRB cannot approve a study unless the benefits outweigh risks of participation. And this principle is the idea that researchers will do no harm to their participants. The third principle, justice, is the idea that you will not, as a researcher, target vulnerable populations unless there's a reason to. So one group of people should not be asked to bear the risks of participation if benefits are going to be applicable to everyone. The regulations define vulnerable populations as pregnant women, fetuses, newborns, prisoners, and I'm drawing a blank on the third one because we've added some other ones as well. So for example, if you took online training, the training identifies workers as a potential vulnerable population because of risk of coercion. So say you wanted to do a study with workers at a business. If the head of the business really wanted their employees to participate in this study, they might not feel like they could say no. They might not feel like they could ask the questions that they were wondering. So, why we have an IRB at BGSU? Federal regulations require it. BGSU policy requires it because it really is an ethical requirement. The one example I gave you, plus more that you could learn about, show that researchers can't always weigh the risks and benefits of their own research, so you have this independent committee that can do that on the researcher's behalf. The IRB only reviews research that meets 2 definitions. So the federal regulations have a definition of a human subject, and they have a definition of research. A human subject is a living individual about whom someone collects information about them. It's also possible that someone else collected information about human subjects. They're going to share it with you. If you can look at those data and know who participated in their study, you're still working with a human subject. Research is a systematic investigation, so you have some sort of a research question, and you've developed methods on how to collect data to then address that question. And the study has to be designed to be generalizable. So when you analyze your data, you can draw conclusions that are applicable to people other than just your participants. So, even though the regulations give us a definition of a human subject and a definition of research, there really is still a lot of gray areas. And in particular, I think a lot of gray areas when it applies to action research. So think